forth between live right now.
Okay, I'm going to hit live now.
Okay. So are we gone?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. You need a sound check on Angela?
Sure.
Just talk, Angela.
Check, check 1, 2. How are you? It's great to be here at the Texas Republican Convention 2020 and meeting a lot of great people, seeing a lot of people, hearing a lot.
Air noise.
The escalator.
Maybe that's what it is.
Probably.
Yeah, I hear that kid.
So I can talk a little bit louder if you need me to, speak closer to the microphone if you need me to. I'm happy to help you out as needed.
Says that it's ready. Starting. It's there. It's live.
All right, folks, if you're tuning in, thank you for subscribing to the Matt Long Show YouTube channel. And we're going to make sure we post these onto the Fredericksburg Tea Party Facebook page, as well as the Matt Long Show Facebook page. And so this is our first interview today of hopefully quite a few. And so my first guest needs no introduction to most of our people. This is Angela Smith, and Angela Smith was the founder of the Fredericksburg Tea Party almost 11 years ago.
Yes,
is that right?
That's exactly right, Matt.
Give us a little bit of tell us a little bit of that about that. It was April 15th,
It
2009. Tell us
Yes.
a little bit of that story.
It was, back then the mantra was taxed enough already. So that's where the tea party part came out of it. And of course they went back to the dumping of the tea into the Boston Harbor, and we talked about that historically and put those two together. So it was a lot of fun, very interesting times then, because that's really what we were talking about. It's just taxation without that representation. What the heck's going on in Washington? In fact, we did not even allow any elected official any
At the
airtime.
event.
No
elected
airtime.
officials, yes.
Zero at the rally. It was a rally in Fredericksburg, Texas. There were rallies all over the state. Ours was just one of them, and there was about 700 people there.
It was amazing.
It was mind blowing, is what it was, because we were sort of prepared, but I'd never done anything ever like that ever.
Right.
Had never helped anyone, but it just came together, and I think all things considered, it went well.
Yeah, I remember showing up, and of course I didn't know anybody, and I got there, and I'm a brown bagger, and I remember I showed up with my cooler, and I kid you not, I'm trying to remember, I am nearly positive that I sat down next to Jerry and Judy McCorkle. For some reason, that may have been the first time I met Jerry and Judy McCorkle. And by the way, put them, Jerry and Judy, in your prayers, please. They're both not doing too well right now. Maybe they're getting better. I haven't heard any news in about 48 hours or so, but they've been having some issues. But back to the story. So I showed up, and I remember they were eating hot dogs. Did y'all have hot dogs?
We did hot dogs, yes.
You had hot dogs. And I remember I brought my bag lunch. I had my ham and cheese sandwich with me and sat down and just started meeting people at the table that I didn't have any idea 11 years later that we would still be in the same circles.
Amazing.
And it was, and just remind us, I can't remember how you advertised or something. You got the word out.
We did.
Somebody sent you a check for $200.
That's exactly right. In fact, that was the tipping point, if you will, because there was me wondering what the heck's going on, me putting my name out there on a website to say, yes, I would help if this happens in our community, and someone else that I'd never met in Fredericksburg sent me $200 and said, oh, I'm so glad you're doing this, thanks. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm helping somebody do it, but it turned into me doing it.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it just did. And honestly, I think it was just the hand of God, because I think people find it hard to imagine not ever knowing, not ever having done anything like that at all. Back then, cell phones were flip phones, and
Right.
I was I could send some emails out. I could. I wasn't very techie at all. I'd been at home raising my son and helping in our family business, and we had a small ranchette thing going on. So lots of other activity, tons of other activity going on. And then all of a sudden I found myself in the middle of organizing this. And when I did that, we got the information out, and people started calling me, which was good. People started coming my way going, hey, I want to be a part of this. Hey, we're going to send you a check, because advertising costs and different things like that, they were well aware of. So,
Right.
So we ended up with a very nice handful of people that actually helped the day of the day of the event. I kind of, in my head, had a feel for what I wanted it to look like, and I wanted information out there. So we had some tables set up, I think, with NRA and some different organizations that we thought might be of interest at the time. Ended up talking to a gentleman that had been the mayor, but he was in theater, and so he did what's his Jefferson, I'm not sure. He does an excellent rendition.
I remember. That's right.
Gerald
that's
Hoover
right.
does an excellent
Yes.
rendition of. I'm
Was
not
it
sure
Thomas
which founding. I
Jefferson?
think it's Jeff. Not.
Yeah,
I may be
not
Jefferson.
Yeah, maybe. I can't remember either. That was 11 years ago.
It was just beautiful. I don't know if I can't remember if we had music, maybe a little band. I'm not positive, but we had the hot dogs going on. It was all downtown. Very community organized. I was now a community organizer.
No, isn't that funny?
In all sense of the word. And we stood out, we had homemade signs, the whole thing. I mean, it was just the whole thing. Lots of homemade signs and people, communicating their sentiments about what was going on. But it was all peaceful.
Yep.
People, I think it was that, like you're saying, it was the beginning of people kind of coming together and finding out there's like-minded people in my community that believe what I'm believing and are wondering what the heck's going on.
Right.
And today, 11 years later, I'm hoping that we kind of have I hope we have that second wave.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Maybe a second wave and another generation maybe, and maybe some other people to coming together that are like we did last week.
Right.
When we had our
Yes.
Tea Party meeting.
Yes.
We had 80 people there.
89 people
Everybody
there. Counts.
Yes, well that's excellent. I mean, that's a normally what do we have? It's about 60, and we had
Yeah,
about 90.
35 to 50 is
So-
kind of normal in there somewhere.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that we've got that wave of new people coming in going, what's going on here? What the heck's going on?
Yeah.
And thankfully, we have a platform in place that's mature and ready to go, to the next level and address the new issues that are out there.
And you, on that, let's stick with 11 years ago for a
Yep.
minute. There was Leslie and Dawn.
Yes.
So it was the three gals, the three ladies from Fredericksburg.
Well, they were not there.
They were not there yet. Okay. I thought they
were
were there
there.
on day one.
No,
They
no.
came-
They were a year later.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I remember you called me because we didn't know each other.
Yes.
I put my name on the list on that April 15th and put my phone number down,
Mm-hmm.
and you called me a while later and wanted to know if I wanted to be involved. And I bent your ear on the phone for, I believe, almost an hour.
A good hour.
My biggest concern was that the story going around in the news at the time was that, these Tea Party people are just a bunch of racists and crazy people. And
Yeah.
there were some ugly signs that were going up in some of the Tea Party rallies.
Yeah.
And my biggest concern was I didn't want to be anywhere near any of that. And so
Sure.
I was really nervous. And so I remember questioning you and saying,
Yeah, we talked a lot.
We talked a lot.
Yeah.
And then I also remember saying, look, I have really long hair. I'm not your average looking conservative. I said, are you sure you really want me to be there? I might not be the image that you're looking for if you're looking for some kind of bird cut. Of course, it's all gone now.
Yes, I noticed.
But it actually, but anyway, that's a story for another time. So I did not know that about Leslie and Dawn. They came back.
Yep.
I'll say 11 years go by. You stepped away for a while.
Yes.
I took over the leadership in January of 13.
Yes, right.
After the 2012 election, where Obama was reelected.
Yes.
Our leader at the time was so disheartened. He was it just tore him up. The loss of that election just tore him up, and he had been keeping the Tea Party together for about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And I was we had a very small board. There was 4 of us on the board at the time, and so on the day of the afternoon of the election, the our Tea Party leader at the time called me and said, I can't do this anymore. We worked so hard, we put so much energy into this, so much effort into this, I can't do it anymore. And that was what he said to me, and he says, I just can't. And his heart was just completely broken.
Right.
And so he said, Matt, let's get together, let's figure out how to unwind and shut down the Tea Party. And so I went to a meeting with him and the 3 other board members, and so there were 4 of us at the time. And one of the fellows that was there has since passed. He was starting to fight cancer at the time.
Yes.
And so when we were looking at, are we going to keep the Tea Party going? He said, well, I can't do anything. I'm fighting cancer right now. And so he was stepping away from everything. And like I said, he has passed since, and we really miss him. But so it was Ray Smith and I were sitting there, and I'm waiting for Ray Smith to say, I'll take over.
Yeah.
You know, I'm trying to sit on my hands as my wife has instructed me to do. Don't be volunteering for everything.
Me to do.
Exactly, and I tell Angela that, just that when you go to just sit on your hands. Don't raise your hand. Don't volunteer.
Right.
Because you will work.
Yeah.
And so, and so I'm waiting for Ray Smith to raise his hand, and Ray looked at me and said, Matt, you need to do this, and I'll have your back. And Ray Smith still has my back to this day.
Yes.
And it's been since the winter of 2012, and Ray Smith, 8 years later, still has my back on this. I put together, really from my heart, and I kept the outline of this talk. I didn't even need the outline, because what was so strong on my heart, what needed to be said and needed to be done. And so we sent out an email in late December, early January of 2012, 2013, saying that we're going to have one more meeting of the Fredericksburg Tea Party. And it's either going to be the last meeting of the Fredericksburg Tea Party, or it's going to be the beginning of a new phase of the Fredericksburg. I had my talk ready. We had our meetings were so informal. We were lucky to get flags there and a microphone. Right. And I believe Ranch Radio donated us a sound system somewhere in there. And it's funny now that 8 years later, I actually have a radio program on the Ranch Radio, and they were the ones that gave us the PA system that is getting really worn out. I think we need a new PA system. But anyway, so I remember giving the talk. Oh, and how many people showed up? It was over 90 people. Right. It was standing room only at the back of the room. We were, and everybody in there said, no, we want this to continue. Right. We want this to continue. And my wife had already told me before the meeting, don't volunteer to run this organization. Don't volunteer to be the president. She was very clear about that. I know. She said, and she was very clear that night, that Thursday night in January, and she was very clear about that. You got plenty to do. You don't need to be doing this. And so I got up there and I gave my talk. And by the way, I still have that outline.
Yeah, that's good.
I need to go back someday and maybe just reread it on camera or something. But I felt real good about that presentation that night. When it was all said and done, and I looked at the audience and I said, all right, so are we sticking around or are we all going home? And it was unanimous. We're going to keep this thing going. Mm-hmm. And I told them, I can't be the president. Well, that was very quickly the crowd very quickly moved in on me, and I said, look, and I can't take the leadership role here. It needs to, my wife, and I pointed her out, and I said, my wife's over there, and I said, she's the one that said I can't do this. Well, she was mobbed. About 4 or 5 people immediately went over to her, and they had a little visit over there, and next thing I know, I'm getting the signal from my wife. She said, okay, you can do this for 1 year. That's what she said, 1 year. So I figured, hey, by January 2014, I'll be out of this. It's 2020.
Yeah.
We're still here. We're still fighting strong.
Yes, we are.
And my wife supports me 1,000%, backs everything I do, even when I'm out of town and we're having issues back home and I'm out of town here, my wife is hanging in there, and she knows she is now fighting for the country and wants me to continue fighting for the state of Texas. And so let's go now. So the Tea Party's going now. Let's talk about our new program. Last November, we got together with our private, we have a private meeting every November of our Tea Party meetings, and we have a big dinner. It's like our own little Thanksgiving
for our members.
dinner, and it's for our members only. And so we got together and we put a plan in front of our members in November to create what are called Focus for Action groups.
Yes.
And these are like your small groups in church, your family groups or what have you. And we did not form the groups.
That's correct.
We did not create groups and then try to get people to join them. What we did was we listed a bunch of topics that we knew are near and dear to the hearts of our members.
Right.
And we then said, all right, whatever is the burr under your saddle, whatever is the topic that you want, that where you really want to put your energy. And we were telling people, look, just focus on one thing. Just focus on one thing. We can't save the whole world all at once. So pick one thing. And out of that announcement, we had very quickly 4 groups spring up. We had the Right to Life group spring up. The Second Amendment group by Mike Belchick has been probably the strongest one.
Yes.
And that's always true of any 2A group in Texas.
And he's great on organizing and leading and moving forward. He's really good at that.
Yeah,
really
Mike
good.
is very, very organized, very good. And
Has
so he's keeping that
the
going.
Whole thing.
And then let's see, so 2A, Sanctity of Life, we have a city-county group.
Yes.
That actually also organically formed because of a local city election that had gone completely awry with 20% of the votes in our local election. 20% of the votes did not have the chain of custody guaranteed in them. And so we had 1/5 of our votes that you couldn't prove where those ballots came from, that were legally insufficient.
Yes.
And so out of that came then some frustration from a local gal, Hormuth. Jeanette, thank you. Jeanette Hormuth said, this is insane. I need to follow through on this. And so
and we have lots of other things going on within the organization, is we need people that are working alongside us, but they are really working on that issue. So that issue, that focus group meets together, they have dinner together, they get to know each other, they become friendly, they know their issue, and then when that legislative session comes along, they're ready to go advocate for or against policy that is being written, laws that, bills that may become law in Austin. They're ready.
Yes.
And so what we do with the folks at home is we plug them in with people at the state level who can feed them information, conservative quality information, so that they have an idea about their issue, maybe a little more in depth. They don't have to do all the research all by themselves. It's already being done. For instance, with Mike.
Right.
He plugged right into GOA,
Gun Owners of America.
Rachel Malone.
Yeah, Rachel. And so, we took our Focus for Action group, the 2A, the Second Amendment Focus for Action group, and introduced them to a national organization called Gun Owners of America. Rachel Malone, and she is in charge of the Texas branch of that.
That's correct.
In fact, we've gone all the way to the top of the ladder. We had the national leader of Gun Owners of America come to Fredericksburg as part of our event. And so we are tied in with that organization. So our small Focus for Action Group
Yes.
doesn't need to reinvent the wheel.
That's exactly
We
right.
plug into these resources.
Yes.
And so the same with the sanctity of life.
Right.
And we're talking more than just abortion. We're also talking end of life. There's
Yes.
a lot of, in Texas, there's a lot of end of life issues. We have this 10-day rule that we've been
Yes.
fighting in Austin, and we're going to continue fighting
Yes.
against the 10-day rule.
Yes.
And so our Sanctity of Life group, which is headed up by Joe Murphy,
Yes.
we have tied them in with Texas Right to Life.
That's correct.
And so again, you have this local group that is really concentrating on things, and they really want to focus on that one issue. We plug them into resources at the national level,
state or
and
national,
state or national level.
Yes.
And therefore, there they have the resources, they have
Yeah.
the backing, they have everything,
Have everything
they
they
need.
need.
And then
Super
then we go to Austin.
Yeah.
And so, tell us a little bit about Austin. Starts on First Amendment Tuesdays.
Yes, we're gonna, this year, we've kind of revamped our First Amendment Tuesday focus. This year, we're gonna start in January, going every week on Tuesdays. We'll be there to take what we're calling some of our new people who want to get involved. We wanna take them early in the session when not as much is going on.
Right.
There's plenty of time to figure out how to get there and park and get into the Capitol, what kinds of, go through metal detectors, the whole thing, and get used to just walking the halls in the layout, the footprint of the facility. Also, you know, we'll be going to see a lot of our representatives, finding their new office or their office, whatever, introducing our new people to these representatives, whether it's ours or some of our friendlies. You know,
Right.
some of our friendlies, a lot of the Freedom Caucus people are very friendly to us and will help us, and we can help them. So we'll be probably like the first
Third, fourth,
yeah,
first
let's
quarter
say-
of the first
yeah,
quarter
let's
of the
say a first
session.
Third. It depends on the speaker. It depends on how they manage things. You know, as you know how
Right.
that goes. So let's just say the first third of those 150 days will be spent going up to the Capitol once a week, meeting, finding our way around, showing people that haven't been there or are still kind of trying to figure it out how to get around.
Right, where the bathrooms
That's
are,
what we're
the
gonna do.
elevators, and
Yes.
and the maze of the Capitol,
Yeah.
and learning, trying to figure out. You got to find the lunchroom, of course.
Of
And
course.
so,
The grill, yeah.
And so during that time, we're getting them their feet wet, getting them
Yeah.
up into the building. We're introducing them to people.
Yes.
We are building relationships, creating
Yes.
relationships.
Yes.
And that is the focus of the Fredericksburg Tea Party. Really has been on creating
Yes.
relationships.
Right.
And so, so that first third, we're going to be doing all that, making introductions, building relationships, getting your connections
Yeah.
together.
Right.
Then once the committees are formed,
Yes.
then we will then we're going to send the focus to our Focus for Action groups.
Yes.
And so by then, our Second Amendment group, our Sanctity of Life group,
Yes.
they will know who the good guys are.
That's exactly right.
They will be looking at legislation. They will hopefully know about legislation as it's being drafted.
Yes.
You know, that would be key, to be in there as it's being drafted with these people, and have good relationships with them.
Yes.
And so then to even help draft the legislation, and then being ahead of time knowing that these bills are going to come up, let's
Yes.
get our testimony
Yes,
ready.
right.
And so it'll be probably what I've been telling people, the first portion of the session, beginning in January, we will be. It will be. I just lost track of what I was going to say.
Well, that'll be-
We're going to be very regular every Tuesday.
Yes.
It's probably what it's going to look like.
Yes.
Is every Tuesday.
Yes.
Then going into, once committees are formed, when you go to the Capitol will really depend on which committees are hearing the bills you
Yes.
are
That you're
you
following.
are that you're following, and so it does set up a pattern very early, and so certain committees will hear the life issues, and so you will find out when those committees, and they meet regularly for the most part. So you
Yeah,
may find out,
especially in the beginning.
especially in the beginning, and you may find out that, well, the committee I need to be in front of every week is going to meet on Wednesdays. So you then have to plan and change and say, all right, every Wednesday I'm going to go to the Capitol. It may be that your issue, for example, the Second Amendment issues, will be in front of several committees.
Yes.
And so may find out that, well, I need to be there on Tuesday and I need to be there on Thursdays.
Mm-hmm.
And so in your focus for action groups, you will then in the middle part of the session be going specifically up there. Now we will maintain a presence on
Yes.
First Amendment Tuesdays.
Yes.
Just to have a focus point
Yeah.
for people, for new people to come in.
New people, random issues, things we just want to, for instance, taxpayer-funded lobbying.
Right.
We might need to really, spend some time with that. It's pretty self-explanatory what that's about. So yeah, we might want to get up there on Tuesdays, and what we do a lot of times is write a letter to the committee members and deliver a letter to every committee member advocating for or against legislation that might be coming up or that we know about is coming up in committee later on.
Okay.
So there may be things like that we don't necessarily have a focus group for, but we just want to get behind something and put some energy there.
Yeah, very exciting. And then I guess towards the last of the session, it'll be about a lot of prayer and
Yes.
a lot of going out and finding where the votes are.
Yes.
And so yeah, and the Texas session, in case you're new to this.